I kind of just threw together this PowerPoint. There's still a lot of things that need to be updated on it, but this is just kind of a rough guidance of what we do as part of the recovery court process. So obviously we can't have recovery court without an applicant. So an applicant is referred to the Rusk County Recovery Court while they're in the charge, their court process. So they'll either meet with a probation officer or an attorney, or come to see me and we'll fill out an application form. After that, they will meet with their probation agent, because everybody that's in recovery court is going to be on probation. So they'll meet with their probation agent or me, and then we will complete a compass risk assessment. And a compass risk assessment is something that I'll show you in another one of these slides. It just shows their need, whether or not they're a high risk, high need person, and it'll explain it coming up. One of the recommendations or qualifications for the TAG grant is that you have to be a high risk, high need in order to be part of the recovery court process. So after all that application information we get a signed release of information, which allows us to get any information from their DOC, from their doctors, from their treatments, from anybody that they've ever seen before. You get the compass risk assessment, it gets forwarded on to me. So basically, a compass risk assessment is a chart that shows their criminogenic needs. And a criminogenic need is something that they need, that they do to boost or to keep their substance abuse going. And this is an actual assessment from one of our recent applicants. It shows that she has a very high level of a history of non-compliance, which means that she continues to re-offend, even though, say, we have a signature bond or we have a cash bond, or we're not supposed to have contact with somebody, and they will continually do the same thing over and over and over again. This person also associates and has friends that she hangs out with that are those that continue to bring forth the substance abuse issues. Obviously, we have a substance use issue, and these are all generated by questions that are asked of them. Basically, their society and routines are what keeps them from using or offending or doing crimes that will feed their substance abuse. We also go at and look at their personality traits, their attitudes, their anger, cognitive behavior is a big thing. And then the financial need, like if they're not gonna have any money to buy the drugs, then they're gonna commit crimes to get the money to get the drugs. And then residential stability is another one. So we add the green and the blue, and that puts them at a high risk, high need, which then gives them, yeah.
Is this a question and answer tool?
Yes.
So there's like
yes, there's questions that, things like how many times have you been arrested? How many of your friends have been arrested? Of those friends that have been arrested, how many have been to prison? How many have been to jail? How many of your friends use? I mean, it's just a whole list, a very large list of questions that are asked. Basically, family orientation, things that happened when they were being raised, things like that. So that's what leads to this risk assessment. So then after all that information is done, then it's brought to me where I review it. We want to make sure that we have all of our information. We request a criminal history from the DA's office. And one of the major things with the TAG grant is that anybody who has a violent offender charge is not allowed in recovery court. And that would be anything that was used a dangerous weapon, or they used force against another person, or the person died or suffered serious bodily harm. So if anybody's got charges like that, then that denies them any access into the recovery court process. They would then, they also then go, after that, they have to go see an AODA counselor, who then also recommends a mental health assessment for them. Luckily for us, we have a new place in town that's been doing this. And so part of their treatment, they are required to do a one-on-one treatment with their AODA counselor. They're also required to do group treatment sessions with other people of high risk, high need, at least 3 times a week. And then if there is a family aspect with children, spouse, parents, whatever, they're also required to attend a mandatory family group session as well.
But that's not for the application. We just need the AODA assessment.
Yeah, we just need the AODA assessment, but then part of their treatment is all those things that are outlined there. Yeah.
assessment. We've just been reviewing the guidelines for treatment courts. And it specifically says that the SUDS has to be used. Is that what's being used by our alcohol? SUDS. SUDS.
Oh, yes, yes,
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I didn't know that,
yeah,
so,
yeah, that's what they use.
is that Aurora?
Well, they used to go to Aurora, but now we have the Family Health Center of Ladysmith, which used to be, part of Marshall Clinic. So here in town, we have the Family Health Center Drug and Alcohol Recovery Center. They've been running for quite a while, I guess. A lot of our newest applicants have actually been going there or have started their assessment there prior to applying to recovery court. So we are actually in the process of getting a contract with them, so they will be coming to our table. We've already had her there once just to see how our recovery court works, and we've already referred at least 3 applicants to them. And like I said, they are working on the contract, and the contract is basically, we're designing the contract and they're working around it. So they are going to meet whatever prices that we say this is what we need to work for us, because the numbers that they came to us with at first were like extremely high. Because we don't need a full-blown assessment, we just need an assessment that shows their needs, where they need that treatment at, in order for them to get accepted by the TAG grant. So they sent us an email back yesterday and said that they are willing to work with us at whatever level we need. So that is something that Judge and I are currently working on.
I might add that the plus part of dealing with them, because when we dealt with Aurora and others in the past, it was like, when we asked them, well, no, we can't do that, or no, we can't do that, or that's gonna be enough. And every dealing that we've had with family health is, yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
And if we can't do that, we'll figure out how to do that.
Right.
And they have a lot more ability for other references to get other treatments. If somebody needs a specific kind of treatment, they have the tools or the resources to get those treatments right away. Going back to the whole recovery court process, after all the applications are brought, they're basically brought to the table where we have our weekly meetings where the team members review the application, any assessments that we have. I come forth and basically let the recovery court team know that I do recommend or do not recommend this person to be in recovery court based on their criminal or their past history. And then like yesterday, we place a vote to approve or deny that person in recovery court. And at that time, that person is contacted both by voice, I talk to them, call them, let them know that they've either been accepted, or denied, and then also a letter is sent out as well. And then we arrange for a meeting where they will have their first, they'll face the judge for the first time. We set a court date for them, and the new participant and the judge will go over the contract word for word, line by line, and they will sign every line that she has read about that contract, so that they know that there are rules that they have to follow on that contract during that recovery court process. And then the recovery court participant will go to before the judge, based on what phase there is. There's 5 phases of the recovery court process, which I didn't put on this slide but forgot. But there's 5 phases, and the first 2, they're required to go to court weekly. Once they get into phase 3, and depending on how well they're doing, we can back off and they can go once every other week. And then once they get closer, it's up to them really though, if they want to come in every week, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever. But we can tier down how many times they're required to come before the court or before the judge. And then the judge also rewards incentives for good behavior or will order sanctions based on the performance of that applicant or that participant during the previous week. And sanctions are sometimes just simple things like writing an essay. Say if a person was very dishonest, then they are required to write an essay about dishonesty and honesty and read it in front of the recovery court that week. The one thing we don't like to do is order a jail sanction, but sometimes we can't avoid that, and it has to be done just to help them out. So basically, the whole, while somebody is in recovery court, this is pretty much, what they're required to do. We require a lot from them. We keep them very busy. They are to attend their treatment sessions as scheduled. They're supposed to maintain weekly contact with me or their probation agent as needed. They're subjected to random drug and alcohol screens. New participants are subject to three random drug screens that we do by mouth swab every week. They have court bi-weekly, monthly, depending on whatever phase they are in. During their second phase, they will attend an MRT class with Rich as part of their programming. You want to just touch on what the MRT is for that?
Yeah, we can go into that. MRT addresses the cognitive behavior going forward, and basically, when that starts off, it focuses on honesty and cooperation, and that is a big challenge for the participants to get through, because most of these participants haven't spent an honest day in their entire lives going forward, and they struggle. And as they progress, so there's 12 steps in that, but it's not truly a 12-step program, and it's not a program that they're going to get through in 12 weeks. It's kind of, I consider it successful if somebody can complete it in 8 or 9 months. If they progress into the later phases, and I have never seen an actually totally willing participant at the start. They come in and do it because they have to and because it's a requirement, and it's probably into step 6 or 7 before all of a sudden the light kind of goes off and says, I can see the benefit to this. I can see some advantages to me going forward. So based on that, then you can see the progress. If in a later phase, 4, 5, 6, 10, or even 12, there's a level of dishonesty, then they can get put back to step 1 or 2. They may just have to repeat that step, or they, depending on what the situation is, may have them repeat the entire process going forward. And I think what I want to do is come in here at a later meeting, not next month, but sometime up, and go through in detail what the MRT process is, and probably bring one of our former participants in to talk about, because step 12, basically they summarize their entire process through MRT, and I'd like to see a participant do that presentation going forward. Some are really good at it, so look at that going forward, but that's kind of a real quick outline of that.
Stands for moral recognition therapy.
Right.
So after, along with the MRT, one of the other requirements is that if they don't have stable housing, that we need to help them find and obtain housing. They're also required in phase 2 to start looking for a job. We keep them pretty busy in phase 1, getting them into a regular structure and a normal life. We want them to focus on their sobriety first. Then they if they don't have a driver's license, they are to work on getting a driver's license. If they do not have a high school diploma, they are to get their high school equivalency diploma. And one of the biggest major contributing things that they need to do is they need to give back to the community that they have taken from by doing community service. And there are plenty of community service opportunities for them in various places in town. They are also supposed to acquire a same-sex positive support person that they can contact on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever, and say, hey, I'm really having a down day, I'm having an up day. Just somebody supporting them that can let them know, other than the 8, 9, however many people we have in a recovery court, to let them know that they are there to help them. So that is also one of the things that they are required to do.
Is there a list of positive support?
Yeah, we have a couple of them, but then also some of them will have somebody in mind that we do make sure that we check them to make sure they are vetted, to make sure that there's nothing in their background that would bring them to using or help them to use. But we do have a couple that we have been using. And we actually have one that just started who is recovering. She's 9 years sober. She recovered by herself. Was a frequent flyer upstairs and up in the 3rd floor in the courthouse, and is playing a major role in one of our newest participants' recovery right now. So it's been helpful.
One of the things that we've noticed in the thing in this positive support person is people that are addicted to drugs but are trying to stay sober. If they call one of their former associates and say, God, I'm having a bad day and I'm thinking of using, but I want to stay sober, the tendency is their former associates to say, well, I've got some meth, I'll come over.
Yeah.
With that positive support person, that's an entirely different bit of feedback. If they call them, they try to prevent them. So, and it's real hard to convince these participants when they're new in the program, these are not your friends. They are not looking after your best interest. Changing those relationships going forward, particularly in a small community like we have here in Ladysmith, in Rusk County, is real difficult because they run into those associates all the time, no matter where they're at.
Yeah. And I just kind of ran some numbers of the participants that we had last year. These are the 5 participants that we had. How many days they spent in recovery court. The daily prison fee is just a rough estimate of what it would cost a person, what it would cost taxpayers a day, if those people actually served that amount of time in prison. So by having the recovery court, we saved taxpayer money last year of $132,000 just by offering them the recovery court. But in last year, we had one graduate that graduated recovery court and is running a very successful business in Rusk County. We had one participant who got full-time custody of their child or their children back, is working full-time, and is currently taking classes online to be a personal care worker someday. One graduate is working full-time in a lead position at a local business here in Rusk County as well. And another graduate has successfully been working full-time, leads NA and AA meetings in the community, and is also looking at getting certification to become a peer support counselor. There's also other people who have continued to stay sober, but they didn't reach out to me and let me know kind of where they're at or what they're doing. But in a nutshell, this is 4 of the recent participants and what they've been able to do with their lives since graduating.
Good deal, super good. Has there been any data relating to the need for sanctioned days that resulted in jail stay locally?
I don't have any of that yet.
I'm just curious.
That is something that, for the core program that we use, we are able to track that and figure that out. But that's something the judge and I have to sit down and do because I have not done that before.
I just know that you highlighted before that that's the last resort, is to not use that. And so I guess I'm trying to determine what would be the correlation for the need for a local jail stay. You know, what constitutes that?
Yeah.
And what is the result of how many days that is?
Yeah. So like in the case that we had the other day, like so some people, like the last person was facing 180 days of jail time. That judgment of conviction said that 180 days is to be used for jail sanctions. So we had that 180 days to use for jail sanctions if need be. We don't want to use them because sometimes by putting them in jail, you're resetting them and you're having to start over the process all over again.
But the team takes the behavior, evaluates the behavior, determines the
best need for that person. If jail time is necessary, and sometimes it is. Sometimes you gotta do the whole hard parenting aspect of it, and order some jail time for them because of based on what they're doing when they're not in recovery court or.
I think that's good data to show too, is that even though you save the days on the potential prison stay, is that there is sometimes sanctions because in recovery it's difficult. You know, there are setbacks and there are backslides and those kinds of things. But the jail days being set are usually for an event. And there's an event that
There's something that led to that. So that is something that we can throw together. With the judge. So that is in a nutshell how we run recovery.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
I do. It was pertaining to the part where you guys were saying that most of the people in the program need to get a driver's license and a high school equivalency diploma. Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to be kind of hard for some people out there. Not especially if I get into that kind of situation. I am severely dyslexic, I will be honest with everyone in here, my high school and everything, my education level will go no higher than a first grader.
Right.
So I will never be able to meet those standards to get that, to get an
And a lot of it,
equivalency.
and what
Now,
I should
I
have
do
stated.
have my driver's license.
And what I should have stated is that there are some people that will never be able to get their driver's license. But if there's a possibility that they can, and there's nothing that's preventing them from, they need to try to acquire their driver's license.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
thing with the high school equivalency. If they have some sort of disability or something that prevents them from getting that, then there's nothing we can do about it. But they have to at least try if they can. There's a lot of people who have the ability to get their HSED, but won't. But if you have an underlying learning disability or something that prevents you from doing it, we can't force you to get your HSE.
Okay, that's all I wanted cleared up.
No, like it's not, you know.
There's also some super good resources out
Yes,
there.
yes. They are directed to the Northwoods Technical College, where Ann that works there will go out of her way to provide some sort of resources for anybody.
Yep,
who's having it.
I've done them all.
Yep, and there's times that it's not feasible for you to get an HSED, and
No,
that's fine.
They said with the weight, I've been tested by the state of Minnesota and the state of Wisconsin when I moved up here.
Yep.
They said it would be pretty much impossible for me to pass that test with how I see everything.
Yep. And that's fine. At least there's that documentation from Ann saying because of learning disabilities or whatever, this person cannot achieve an HSED. You know, not just because, well, I have a learning disability. I have a learning disability, so I can't get my HSED. But
Yeah.
we're going to at least make sure that there's steps put forth to.
Yeah.
This.
I wanna move on. Andy, you're still on, while we're progressing on that TAD grant.
The TAD grant just became available last week. Last week. The webinar is on October 1st. My goal is to have it completely done by October 4th, so then that way we have time to make any adjustments as we see fit. It's not a very lengthy process. My only suggestion is that I know last year when the grant was written, that it was written with the intentions of having a criminal justice services coordinator thrown in there. However, this year my suggestion is based on, because of budget issues and the fact that we are trying to get the recovery court growing and being productive like it was before, to not focus on that criminal justice services position at this time and just focus next year on the regular recovery court, the hybrid treatment court, and get that building and get that where it should be before we focus again on the criminal justice services coordinator position, because there's a lot of different things that need to get looked at when doing that. So basically what I'm just looking for is the approval to just do the TAD grant under the strict stipulation that it'll be ran as a hybrid recovery court. And then also once that grant is written and done, then I will print everything, or not print everything off, but send everything that I have created, because there's nothing to hide, so that everybody can see what is in that grant.
For the county board members that are here this morning, thank you very much for coming, by the way. We just want to point out that that criminal justice services coordinator or whatever position, there's got to be a lot more research. That was presented last year, and there has to be significant more research going into that, and some type of cost-benefit analysis going forward before we even think about proceeding with that at this point. Right now, with the recovery court growing and gaining again in participants and everything, we need to focus on just what we have right now to move forward. And I'm going to point out that the team that we have functioning right now is better than it's been since I've been in there for the last 4 years. So we've got a real good functioning team right now. So thanks to Angie getting everything up and going again. So well done. But I just wanted to kind of let you guys know a little bit about what we're looking at. Judge Stewart, Program Review Committee updates.
Okay. Well, first of all, seeing a lot of familiar faces around the room, because I just saw you last week. And I want to sincerely thank everybody who came to our first meeting. unfortunately, it wasn't enough. The good news is everybody that was here contributed and had some good ideas. We probably had, I should have done the math, but probably only about half of the people who are designated to be on the program review attended. And I think that's unfortunate, but we're gonna keep charging forward with whoever shows up. But one of the things I wanna do is encourage, if you're on that list, and it's specified in our bylaws who's on there, please show up, because one of the things I would like to do as chair of this committee is break down our committee so that we can move a little bit faster. For example, our next meeting is gonna be on October 24th, I think it is, which is the regular scheduled CJCC meeting. But under our current bylaws, every quarter, program review is gonna take charge of that meeting. Everybody's welcome. And our next quarter is gonna be in October, and we're gonna take a look at that. So please, if you can participate, because I wanna divide up into some subgroups. For example, we've got our agenda for the next meeting, and one of the things that you'll see if you look at it is it's gonna move very slowly. For example, we're only going to take a look at the first 6 standards for treatment courts. 6 out of 14, and they aren't the meatiest ones, I can tell you that. They're more, well, they're just not as complicated as many of the standards that we're required to meet that are coming up in 7 through 14. And so I'd like to break into some groups so we could do a deep dive on some of those, so we're not looking at 3 years from now getting to the 14th standard. It's too late. So we need more bodies, we need more people who are willing to be involved in that. Again, I want to thank everybody who came and contributed, because everybody who came did contribute. So if you see somebody who is on that list and wasn't here,
grab him by the scruff of the neck and bring him.
Well, or a strong elbow, you know. Anyway, Jeremy was gracious enough to send out some information to all of you on the program review committee. He's my IT guy and my brains, but anyway.
We're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
We need more manpower.
So we're gonna again meet on the 24th. We have an agenda to look at, first of all, the first 6 standards. And let me remind everybody, because I think sometimes we forget this. If you go back to the bylaws, it specifically talks about adherence to standards and being data driven. That's what our bylaws say. The things that we should do here shouldn't be based just on anecdotal things that we can each come up with. It's supposed to be driven by data, okay? And be the basis for which we make decisions and we decide to do certain things as opposed to other things. So the data needs to drive us. Anyway, so we're gonna look at the standards. We're going to have a discussion on the program evaluation results from, I think it was December of 22? Okay. And one of the things that we've talked about is, okay, there is some negative information in that program evaluation. It is what it is. But we want to make sure that we have at least sat down and discussed that evaluation and say, okay, did we respond to some of those criticisms in that evaluation? So we're going to spend some time doing that. Then we're going to keep sort of a subgroup or sub-context going on here for strategic planning, so that we have a mechanism whereby we can take a look at where should this group be going, the Criminal Justice Collaboration Council, what should we be doing? What kind of timeline should we be looking at? And I'm going to tell you, without more people in this room, that's going to be real difficult. I mean, just keep running into that, but we're gonna deal with strategic planning and try and come up with some ideas and some actual, plans. And then, time permitting, our next meeting on the 24th, we're going to talk about data collection. Now, as I just mentioned, our bylaws say we're supposed to be data driven, but we don't have much data. Okay, we just don't. So what I want is to ask all of you to just sit back, close your eyes, and say to yourself, whether it's related to the recovery court or anything else, what would I like to know in terms of numbers and data? And give us that, because what I'm going to do, hopefully, is come up with a list for each of the major players in the criminal justice system here, of data that we want to see and hear, so that we can make decisions. I mean, too often in the past, and I'll plead guilty to this myself, we come up with an idea, it's just an idea. It doesn't have any data supporting it, okay? Without being critical, for example, you know, for years we had jail population data presented at every meeting. No, we don't. But it used to be a lot more specific too. And we could look at probation holds, male, female, the types of crimes for which they've been convicted and are serving time or awaiting time before they get to court. So just in your own, don't worry about the parameters. Just go, I would like to know blank, and tell us what goes in that blank. So we can set up a process whereby if you want to know numbers that would maybe come out of the clerk court's office, a great source of information. And I know our clerk of court has in the past, and I'm sure she'll continue, when we pose a question, she can work with CCAP, and they can do all sorts of studies of the data specifically for Rusk County in terms of the types of prosecution, whatever. So we've got data from them. We've got data from the district attorney and how much diversion do they do? Do they do deferred acceptance of guilty pleas? Do they do deferred prosecution agreements? If so, how many? And what kinds of charges are they filing? Okay, and the Sheriff's Department and Human Services. So just answer that question. I would like to know, and if your blank has more than one thing, that's great. And make sure that we get that, okay? So anyway, again, I want to thank those that have participated and say we're going to keep going at this, and hopefully rapidly enough so that we can effectuate some change, so that things work better. One last note that I'll make, and that is, as it relates to other things that we're going to look at, they'll be secondary, but we're also going to look at some other criminal justice alternatives that already exist, like the intoxicated driver intervention program, which is, I'm told, sort of a farce, but it's there. We can use it if we figure out what's wrong with it and how to make it work, because statistically speaking, IDIPs reduce recidivism for operating while intoxicated or impaired, okay? It makes a difference, and it doesn't require necessarily a lot of jail time or a lot of money, and there's some creative things you can do, so that there's another alternative to the traditional criminal justice system that's available. The other one that we're going to hopefully take a look at, because it is a treatment court, or it's intended to be a treatment court, and that's truancy court. What's it for? It's a rehabilitative behavior change mechanism to get kids to go to school. Well, why do we care about kids going to school? Because they're the ones who populate our adult criminal justice system. Many of them, a very high percentage of them, were extremely truant. And so we're going to look at those things as well. Jeremy?
Super good. October 24th, 8 to 9:30, we'll do 90 minutes to accomplish the things that Judge just outlined. You will get an email from me. I have to get from Angie the recovery code items that aren't on the original 20-person invite. And we'll get that out to you along with the attachments, agenda, the bylaws, as well as the program review that was done by Pop Health. We want as many people as we can get in the room. We want the perspective.
I believe I have a conference that day in La Crosse, so I will. Cancel. It's the yearly recovery court coordinator conference, so being that it's my first year that I'm.
100%.
We'll see if they'll change the date.
Oh, yeah, you know what, I'll do that.
Is there, and I don't know what the timing of that is, but, I think it would be helpful for us, and I understand, I think that's important too.
Right.
That's one of the things, in my opinion, that's lacking is significant training for our coordinators for recovery court. But if there were an opportunity for a brief appearance by Zoom.
Yeah, and once I get my schedule,
Okay.
I could see cause it's, a lot of the sessions, I think I only had to sign up to attend like 3, sessions that, and the rest of them are come and go as you want ones. And with it being, what time of the day is the meeting, 8 to 9:30?
Yeah.
I should be able to just zoom in, I could probably just zoom in from my hotel room then.
I think this is, like, for example, if we're gonna take a look at this program evaluation, we need your perspective on how, because I know you've addressed a number of these things already.
And I'll have to look, cause it might not even be, I know it's.
Well, we can figure that out, but.
Yeah, it starts at 10:30 on October 24th, so I'll be able to make it. Depending on, availability of how well the Wi-Fi is, hotel for.
Most are adequate.
Any questions? Any suggestions?
Does that mean that we are going to offer virtual access to all of our members going forward?
I think that's one of the things Judge Barnett.
Yeah, because she had a doctor's appointment today, she would have been able to appear by Zoom, but wasn't sure if there was that accessibility today for it.
Did we put that on the agenda? I don't remember.
I think we put it on the agenda was it on the agenda for the last meeting, the program review?
Yeah.
It was brought up in the program review committee meeting, because I think Melissa brought that up.
So, yeah, I guess what I would say is from the program review committee option, I have access to Teams, I can set up a Teams meeting, until I'm told differently, if someone wants to join via virtual access, I will provide that as a part of my invite to you.
I think that's gonna be critical going forward, because everybody has busy schedules, may not be able to physically be here. Obviously, we prefer everybody to be physically here, but that isn't always possible, and I hate to not have somebody's input because of a conflict.
Right.
Next one.
Do we wanna address it for the CJCC as a whole then?
Yes.
I know it's not on the agenda, but I guess we could add it if the chair isn't opposed to that or anybody else isn't opposed.
I am definitely not opposed to it. We probably should have had that in the agenda and we did not, so.
I guess my question would be simply this: the CJCC is not a recognized committee in the county. It's a component of the recovery court. Whose permission, if any, do we need to have to do a virtual option? I mean, it's the same thing as.
Mr. Willingham, do you have any input on that? Sherry?
I think you just do it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too.
So there's two separate components.
I know that, from time to time, other committees of the county use virtual access when they want to, or when they need to. So I think, just do it.
So generally speaking, I am a permission asker, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'll just say this.
If it's not an agenda item today, my suggestion would be to set it up for the next meeting, put it on the agenda as the first item, make a decision that we're gonna do it or not do it, and then turn the switch. And everybody that's on.
And I will ask, I will ask the administrative coordinator if there's a policy that says we can't, and we can still put it on the agenda, we can bring it forward, whatever, so.
I don't actually think that the virtual access issue from the county board's standpoint has applied to members of the committees or the board participating by virtual access. It's been whether we open virtual access up to the public. And so, and I don't know, in fact, I'm certain there are no reasons why we shouldn't open it up to the public as well, but that's not a question.
Grander discussion.
Dave, I think that we've had county board members come on virtually to meetings.
Yes. But what I'm saying is that they've allowed virtual access to members of committees and members of the board, but not necessarily opening it up to members of the public, which, probably an issue that we ought to debate again.
Well, as far as program review in our October 24th meeting, it is going to be available. I don't see any prohibition against that. It's a subcommittee meeting of CJCC, so.
I don't think we even need a motion on that, just do it.
Don't you have to ask permission to join that as a thing, and so you know who's actually watching?
So the invite will go out with there'll be 30 plus people on there, so I will create the link for the invite, so I can just plug in and let people in.
So it isn't
That
like
will be specific to the invitees.
the
People
public
see
can't
who's-
get on to do that, it's just the people that have been invited.
Unless they share it. If they share it, then I don't know, but I would respectfully ask that morning that there's no anonymous, there's no this or that. If you're gonna listen in, say who you are.
So, the public would be allowed, but we're not making the link accessible to the public.
So to speak. The list of invitees will get the link. I'm not sending it to the.
No, I don't think it should be on the agenda even or anything like that.
Right, I don't see any reason to. I mean,
Let's try it and see what happens. And go from there.
let's put it this way, pending an issue that is unforeseen at this moment, we're just gonna do it. And we can research that with Ashley going forward,
I'm just gonna ask her on
and
the.
see if that's a problem.
We've done this before, we did it through COVID, we've done Zoom and whatever, but it's the quality of the link that's always been the problem.
We're much better
All of a
than
sudden
what
it's
you-
gone, or you can't get voice, and so it's always been the quality of the link, so if we're gonna do it, then it's really gotta work. It just can't be a black screen because we can't access it.
I think we have a much better product through Microsoft Teams rather than Blue Jeans that will offer that opportunity. But we'll try it.
Does Blue Jeans even exist anymore?
I think there's a product.
No,
I think they call it sweatpants now.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Nonetheless, we'll just try it, and if it doesn't work, then it
Yeah.
doesn't work. We'll see what we can figure out.
Maybe yoga pants.
Next item on the agenda is review and sign the letter of support for a recovery court grant. I do have to say that when it was originally sent out, it was set to have signatures of all the people that are on CJCC. That is not necessary as far as the grant requirement. The only grant requirement is that it lists the individuals who are members of the CJCC. So having said that, there's no content changed in that, and everybody should have had an opportunity to review the content. I don't see any changes. You work with the judge as far as what was required on that. So I would ask for a motion to sign that letter in support of the recovery court grant.
I would make that motion, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Willingham. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. It's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is approved, and I will sign that letter of support. Is there any other business that needs to be conducted? Sir.
Not an afterthought, just my old brain. When we revised the bylaws this last time, we forgot one very important member of the CJCC committee or council, and that is clergy. And that was actually added about 5-6 years ago, but in the loss of minutes and all those kinds of things that didn't allow us to keep track of changes that we made over time. I would like to see that on the next agenda, because that's supposed to come from the executive committee to recommend that we add that. It's already added, but I would like to see that on there.
Well, barring the fact that we don't have an executive committee, with the group that's here, would you like to make that as a motion?
I would.
Does everybody understand what the motion is, to add clergy back to the CJCC?
I'll second.
We're not to if he's sitting here. I said it'd be kind of hard not to if he's sitting here.
Well, we don't wanna talk behind his back. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Both sides of the street covered.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And that was
Motion's passed.
see my name and it said clergy and then committee on there, and that kind of, because we had that discussion, didn't we, about, because yeah, there's two of us sitting there. And what role are you playing today?
All right, I think we've conducted all the business. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Let's go
If
home.
anybody has suggestions for data collection, please, if you would forward that to myself or Jeremy, that would be much appreciated, because we're gonna keep track of this stuff.
It will be on the agenda as well, and doing it right now, it just as a bonus question is what data would you like to see? I need a list of if you can.
Well, I didn't really write together.
Oh, the team members? I will send you a list today sometime. I will send you a list sometime today.
Just hanging out.
She's got
I got wellness.
You'll still get the email no matter where you're at today.
I got wellness.
Well, I'm gonna have to have wellness here pretty